Good evening. My name is Sandy Newkirk, and I'd like to welcome you to tonight's Soul Session, Part 2, with Dr. Catherine Thomas. We are honored here at Creative Life Spiritual Center in Spring, Texas, to present a second conversation with Dr. Catherine Thomas, who is the past Executive Director of the Unity Urban Ministerial School, and Minister Jesse Jennings, Reverend Dr. Jesse Jennings of Creative Life Spiritual Center, Spring, Texas. Dr. Thomas succeeded founder Dr. Ruth Mosely in leadership of the Unity Urban Ministerial School, which opened in 1980 and now has over 200 graduates. The purpose of the school was and is to bring racial and ethnic equity into New Thought ministerial service. Currently, Dr. Thomas serves on 3 faculties of ministerial schools, spiritual schools, and universities. Plus, tonight's special guest is Reverend Sheila Gautreaux. Reverend Sheila is a member of the ministerial staff at Unity of Houston. She is an ordained Unity minister, a licensed Unity teacher, a published author, an inspirational speaker, and a certified radical forgiveness coach. Reverend Sheila is known for her passion, humor, and profound insights and beautiful, beautiful singing voice. Her mission is to awaken and empower all humanity through prayer and forgiveness for the healing of the world. We are extremely honored to have you share tonight's event. It is presented by Creative Life's Be the Change initiative, a grassroots thrust to create and promote a world that works for everyone. I am co-chair of the event, and I share that space with PJ Gunter, who is also on the call tonight. So Reverend Jesse, I turn it over to you now. Welcome everyone, and off we go.
Thank you so much, Sandy, and a big hand to you and to PJ for co-chairing Be the Change and the wonderful work that you're doing and that we're all doing here together. As we get started tonight, just a technical note, as Sandy mentioned, this is part 2 of 2. The first conversation, the link to that will be right below the event signature for tonight in the news feed on your Facebook page. And I encourage you also to click on the left where it says videos show all, and you'll see the other soul session conversations that we've had, about 20 of them so far on Facebook Live. If you scroll through there, if you're watching tonight on YouTube, you can click on Creative Life Spiritual Center, the channel name, and then click on playlists, and then click on soul sessions, and you can watch them there, because this is the latest in a long series of wonderful conversations that we've had. So tonight, we pick up where we left off, which began with a conversation about the founding of the Unity Urban Ministerial School, the climate of the time that drove that decision, the great work that's been done, the growth of that school, the continued success of that school and of its graduates under the leadership of Dr. Thomas and her predecessor, Dr. Mosely. And we also are tonight going to work on diversity issues, specifically out of a book that Dr. Catherine has recommended to us. And most exciting of all tonight, we reunite on screen Dr. Catherine and Reverend Sheila, who are dear friends who have not seen each other, I suppose, since before the pandemic, and are here gathered together to join in this conversation. So where shall we begin tonight in our work, in our journey together? What do you think? Dr. Catherine.
I just want to say I am so excited to be here with Reverend Sheila. We go back almost 20 25 years.
Yes, that's true.
Yes. I am so pleased to be here with you, Sheila. I think
I'm thrilled.
we talked on the phone last summer, right?
Yes, we did. Mhm. I'm thrilled to be here with you and honored.
And you, Reverend Sheila, are a graduate of the Unity Urban Ministerial School yourself, yes?
No, I'm not.
Oh, you were from the
It's
Unity Lee Summit Institute,
Yes.
the Unity Institute. All right, very good. Hello, Sheila Jones. Good to see you too. Sheila was with us last time. We gathered tonight as we did at my center, and I'm sure at Unity and all centers everywhere, all churches everywhere, on Sunday in a spirit of mourning and outrage at what took place in Buffalo. And I've personally been sitting with forgiveness and peace and love and light on the one hand, and horror and shame and disgrace on the other. And would appreciate any input that you could give to all of us watching, to white people who feel complicit.
Well, there's only one of us. And it has nothing to do with our skin color. It has to do with the mental, emotional incongruency that is existing within us and was heavily facilitated by the pandemic. And I'm not sure how many people are aware of it, but the core word of pandemic and pandemonium are the same. And therefore, in the midst of the chaos that we were experiencing internally, mentally and internally, we developed a chaotic energy that extended itself out into our nation and out into the world. And people responded to it without being aware of what was happening to them. They just knew that they were angry and that they were feeling this rage at the center of their being. But it is because the core, the foundational word for pandemic is pandemonium.
Sheila, you are so correct. There is a oneness that we need to aspire to. It's an inclusivity that we need to aspire to. There's no particular group or the other that's responsible for this. We're all responsible. I sit here with my ancestry, which is both Caucasian slave owners in my ancestry, as well as slaves.
Yes.
We're all responsible. There is one group on this planet. We're all earthlings, responsible for all our love and all that we've created and allowed to show forth on this planet. What's showing forth is what is in our consciousness.
Yeah.
We
And
have choice. All of
we do have to understand one thing, though, and this has been proven in hospitals and mental institutions alike. When you lock people in, when you lock them down, unless you are facilitating things to keep them from going into that deep, dark place of isolation and fear, you're going to have what we had. and people are still reacting because it's still in there. That's why they're killing and shooting and so forth. It's not because they just want to do it. They cannot help it. The pain inside is so deep, they don't know what to do with it. So they're shooting messages at us.
It's showing up not only in our race relations in this country and others, but it's showing up in various ways on the planet, in wars, in prisons, in divisions between groups of people.
Yes.
Some people are saying the United States of America has caused so much unfairness to other groups around the planet, not only within this country, but outside this country. The answer is only one answer, and that's love. Love of self, love of neighbor, love of all. Not just all humanity, but love of every being on the planet, every being in the universe.
Would you say too that recognition that that love will get your personal needs met is paramount? A lot of times I think people believe that love is just this vague, amorphous kind of thing, but love generates creativity, love generates prosperity, love generates what people need, which they get enraged about not having when they feel as though they can't get ahead in life. They're not respected for the work they do. You find this a lot in, you know, there was a time, and not a good time, but there was a time in Western history where you had this caste system where, you know, if your father was a saddle maker or something, you were, you know, you kept the trade alive. And then with the rise of the merchant class, you had the ability to begin to improve yourself and get an education and change careers. You might study law or medicine when these things in the Renaissance became actual careers that you could have, you know. And now there's become a stratification where people who are working what we call blue collar jobs or working on farms and so on, they don't feel respected for the work that they do. And if we recognize that love heals all things, that it comes and meets our needs right where we are, there's a rationale there for opening your heart. Nobody's trying to take your job. Nobody's trying to take your place. This whole thing of replacement theory is nonsense. Nobody can be replaced in this life. Everybody is a gem. Everybody's a jewel in what they're in, how they're living and how they're being, you know. And the recognition of that, then it allows you to, now you can trust other people. You don't see them as the other. You don't see them as the enemy. Just my thoughts.
This is not only a concern in this country, this is a concern throughout the planet. In other countries, it's not a different occurrence that we feel only occurs here with racism. It occurs in India with all the various classes. It occurs through relationships between countries, relationships between families, relationships within families. It even occurs within individuals about the love-hate relationships we have for our own individual selves. I have stumbled across an author with a book some 30 years ago, Creating a World That Works for All. And he's come out this year with a workbook, because we could talk this thing to death, and you've heard it talked to death. It's time to solve it. It's time to do something about it. Creating a world that works for all was a nice solution, but not the practical steps that he has in this new book. Jesse, can you put this up on the screen? It's called Practicing the 12 Steps of Inclusivity. And it's about taking diversity, which we've been talking about for the past few years, to inclusivity, both on the levels of groups, the other, the levels of self, the levels of countries. Here, we're using it for the entire planet Earth. I also mentioned in, oh, you've got it up, there it is, Practicing the 12 Steps of Inclusivity by Sharif Abdullah. He has JD down there. In his former life, he was a corporate lawyer, and somehow I think he wandered into a New Thought church and became what we call spiritual as opposed to religious, and has come up with the last 30 years or so, being influenced by countries where inclusivity and diversity with the other has been practiced. These steps have been practiced in the Tibetan culture. He's helped with various cultures other than the United States of America, but also a great deal in the United States of America. I'm suggesting that we do the work by doing the 12 steps. For example, in his book, Sharif says in his introduction to this workbook that we need to look within, find what it is that we're considering tools for practicing the steps to inclusivity. We need to look within, ask ourselves the questions. And Jesse, could you put up the second video?
I think so. Hang on just a minute.
Step one, communicating, because communication is how we relate to one another. Communicating is how we really relate to self.
Is that it?
It's not up yet.
It's not up yet. Okay, just a second.
Here, he's saying that the most essential thing in life is to establish an unafraid, heartfelt communication with others. Were you able to get it, Jesse?
Yeah, just a sec.
Okay. What I would like to see us do is a little bit this evening of the work. What I'm really suggesting is that your community take this project on as a class, 12 weeks, 12 steps, and that your community follows what he's suggested that we take on and do this work with each other, with self, with a partner. In here, he has reflection on the steps. The first step is communicating. Were you able to get the slide, Jesse?
I can't, I keep losing it. Hang on just a minute. I've got too many
Okay,
different panels going.
you keep doing that.
You just keep
And
talking and
I'll
I'll,
keep sharing. And I'll keep sharing. I'm going to read a little bit.
yeah, is that it?
That's it.
Okay.
The most essential thing in life is to establish an unafraid, heartfelt communication with others. And that is the first step, the first of 12 steps. In here, he tells us that we move forward on the path by not allowing the fear of the other to prevent us from communicating. For many people, fear prevents them from even attempting to communicate. This afternoon, I talked to my son. My son is living in a group home because he spent his entire adult life battling mental illness. And when he first went to the present group home, he said there was 2 people there. One he knew already, had lived next door to him. And then there was another, and there were going to be 3. He's a rather high functioning person. There were going to be 3 people in this group home, and there was space for a 4th. He was very concerned, but he found that once he got there, the 3 of them got along well. And then he found that the 4th was coming, and he was very anxious, afraid, because there was someone he didn't know coming to live in his house, whether there would be conflict. And he's been in situations where there was conflict, where the people, got knives and scissors and so on to settle their communication issues. This person moved in and he made 6 rolls and offered him one. He ate it and he offered him they are best friends now. My son hasn't had a friend for so long. A friend. That's something that we need in our lives. We need the love of a friend. And he now has that after years of not having that. That's what we mean by having this communication with the other. Abdullah says we live in a society that makes our non-communication easy. Throughout our social media, distancing architecture, and our culture, we have created a society where we have no need for each other and no experience of the other. Boy, that was what was going on with that person in Buffalo. Not only is it not important for us to interact with each other, we don't know how to do so and how much it is so important. Remember that the overwhelming majority of human communication is nonverbal. Abdullah says he lives in a city where people start averting their eyes when they're blocks away from each other. And it was true even before the advent of COVID on this avoidance that has averted for years and years before the pandemic. Without practice, without experience, when we are face to face, we don't know how to act. Our experience gives us confidence to let our brains go on our subconscious autopilot. because we are on familiar ground, we begin to relax, even if the event is tense or hostile. Your experiences make your communicating conscious. Abdullah says in his encounter with the Russian skinheads when he was in Russia a few years ago, some skinheads he saw in the distance who were Russian saw him, and he knew they were coming after him, and he was fearing for his life. He says that he was in conscious communication with them from a half block away. He was in conscious communication, not verbal communication. Every step he took, all eye contact, the look on my face said to them, I see you. I acknowledge your humanity. I know you're in pain, but I'm not the cause of it, and I'm not hurting you. And your hurting me will not ease it if I'm with you. Whatever you're feeling, I am feeling. In the conversation, there was no conversation, no verbal communication, because he spoke English and they spoke Russian. There was not conversation, but there was communication. During that event with one of them, he rushed at me and he started screaming at me. And I did not react negatively, partly because I didn't know what he was saying to me. I did not let the words get in the way of the communication. The communication he had with them was without words, but his consciousness said, I love you, I am you. He said to them that they loved him, and apparently they didn't bother him. He's on the planet today. In this workbook, and I'm advocating that you do a class, and I'm advocating that you do the work, because I feel that this is a way in which we can help each other to learn how to put more love into our experiences with the other and with ourselves, our families, and our communities. I'd like to hear what you think about this. Jesse?
You mentioned in the email last night about our doing a class, and actually I think Sandy was picking up a nonverbal cue from you about that, because between our last meeting 2 weeks ago and tonight, she said, do you think Dr. Catherine is suggesting we do a class and we all get the book? And I said, I think so, but we'll find out in the second week. But it was already on our radar to do that, and I will commit now that we will absolutely do that. And your reading of Mr. Abdullah, I mean, that's Christ-like what he did. That is absolutely Christ-like, to anticipate a situation of incoming harm and to communicate sort of telepathically with these individuals. That I mean you no harm, and that we are one being, and you won't offload your pain by harming me, and I share your pain. Your pain is like my pain, only the details differ. That's Christ-like. That's what Christ taught. That's what Gandhi taught. That's what all the great Dr. King, all the great spiritual, courageous, spiritual teachers, and Dr. Catherine among them, you know, and Reverend Sheila teaching this. To do this takes great courage, because we're not taught this, are we? We're not taught this coming up. We're not taught this in the educational system. We're taught stand up for yourself and use your fists if you have to. And if your fists aren't enough, then grab something else nearby. We're not taught to reach for the deepness, for the consciousness, and to disarm one another that way. Which is why I suppose we have New Thought to teach us this. That's why we're here. You know, this isn't about getting rich or having more stuff in your life or even a different explanation of God. It's about going for the real deep work about getting along on this planet as one human family.
We don't even have to learn Russian.
No.
We don't even have to learn language verbally, but consciously. We have to feel it and express it non-verbally.
And make the first move, as he did. You know, he didn't react. He didn't wait till they were on him. Make the first move. See the person a block away, and open your heart to them. Then, yeah.
We need to be aware of what's going on around us, and sometimes even threats. But we don't need to be aware through carrying guns.
I agree.
That's not the armor that solves it. Some people feel that even more guns are the solution. More police are the solution. In situations like that, you don't have time for police. You have time for consciousness, and that's with you and available to you always.
And that's why we do the spiritual work that we do. And that's why we work on enrolling others in it, you know, starting with the real simple stuff, like create a daily, regular spiritual practice of meditation and prayer to the God of your understanding. However, whatever that is, start there.
It doesn't matter what your religion is or what racial group you're part of. This love we're talking about really begins at home with your family. And sometimes it begins with the conflict within yourself. Because self-love is something, if we're filled with self-love, it's going to spill over to the other. It's just going to spill over to the other. There's no way you can be filled with self-love and it not be felt by the other, whether the other is of a different faith, religion, skin color, height. The other day, I was hugging people at church, and up came a tiny person, a midget. And so I bent over to give her a hug. I almost fell on her and took her down with me. But because this happened in hugging and in loving, everybody just laughed. It certainly wasn't done in wanting to harm anyone. is done in love.
May I add something? I love the fact of coming from that first place and bringing love forward and so forth. I believe, and this is kind of what I do, is that a lot of people don't really know how to get to that love. They're in so much pain. And that's the reason that in the radical forgiveness process, we first have you identify what you're feeling. And then we take you beyond those feelings into where you can tap into that place of love. Most people don't even realize what they're feeling. And that's why they're shooting guns and destroying things and so forth and so on. So sometimes to get them to the feeling of love, we have to help them tap into what they're already feeling and help them understand it's okay that they're feeling the anger, the pain. Let's do something to open that up, release it so that they can make room for love and peace and caring.
Excellent point. You're absolutely correct.
Is that the nature of pandemonium, would you say, Reverend Sheila?
Yes.
All of these feelings just kaleidoscopically, and you can't lock in on what it is.
Yeah, they don't know what to do with this stuff that's coming up. And I can tell you, even I had an experience for 5 days. I couldn't get off the sofa in my house. I was I didn't even know what it was, but it was a depression and I didn't even realize it. One, tapping into, because I'm empathic, and tapping into what was in the air and what was going on around me. And of course, I was doing coaching work by Zoom with people, and I didn't realize that some of it was coming into me and I was feeling it. And I was on the sofa for 5 days, couldn't get off the sofa. I was so depressed. And I'm, Catherine can tell you, I'm not a depressed type person. That's not me. So that was very unusual. And it took me understanding the fact that I had tapped into all of this pain with the work I'm doing with people and being compassionate and opening my heart. And I then began to realize, acknowledge what I was feeling, and at the same time, begin to do the clearing to open myself up to that perfect love that casts out all fear.
Mm-hmm. Yeah. How do I put this? There's oneness and there's compartmentalization. And sometimes compartmentalization is useful in terms of drawing boundaries of around incoming information. And where I'm going with this is, like, we all remember a time when you got the morning paper on your doorstep and you read it if you had time. You read the big headlines and stuff, and maybe you made a few pages into it, and then you had to get about your day. Now we sit and look at our phones, and every crisis that exists anywhere on this planet is presenting itself for us to have to do something about it and feel something about it. And oh my God, the poor people of here who are suffering this.
Yes.
And it's overwhelming. And our ministers, I know you ministers at Unity have discussed this amongst yourselves. Our ministers at Creative Life and throughout CSL have discussed this amongst ourselves. We're the ones that people look to for, what are we going to do about this?
Yes.
How are we going to heal the wildfires? And how are we going to, and it becomes just so much. Plus then on top of that, or within that, you've got individuals suffering unrelated to any of that. Somebody gets a cancer diagnosis, or somebody loses a job, and you feel that, you put yourself in their place. So we've got to have that lifeline of that you so beautifully opened the program tonight with, that there's one being. It's one life. all one, and I have to go to that and know that in that, our founder, Ernest Holmes, is famous for saying, among other things, that he said, somebody came to him and said, I have a terrible problem, and what should I do about it? And Ernest Holmes said, I don't know, but there is something that does know, and we'll go to that.
Yes. Yes.
Beautiful. That's beautiful.
Isn't that beautiful? Yeah.
So often we have experiences like I had on January 6th, 2021. Is that right? Right. I was not feeling that well, but I was looking at the news on television and doing, like we do 6 things at once. And I looked at what was going on, and I took my blood pressure, which has been normal for decades, all my life. And all of a sudden, my blood pressure was 180 something.
Mm.
It had never been over 120 something. It was watching what I was watching on television.
Yes. Yes.
Just incredible. Now, it's a year and a half later, and my blood pressure still hasn't gone down. I'm serious. It still hasn't gone down. It's been up to 250. It started January 6th, 2021. When I've lived in Washington, D.C. I was so moved by seeing them attack that Capitol. It sent my blood pressure up, and we haven't gotten it down yet.
That's the piece about there's only one of us. And we are feeling the feelings that everyone else is experiencing right now. We can't help but feel some of it because there's only one of us. And when we recognize that and we begin to look at what we're feeling and begin to do the work to begin to clear our own and support others in clearing theirs and bringing us back into that perfect peace of God. But when the majority of the emotions on the planet are chaos, are fear and rage and violence, it's going to reach a critical mass, and that's what's going to be felt. And this is science. I mean, they've proven that. They've proven it. And so it's not unusual that people are killing each other and shooting each other and so forth. They're trying to get rid of the pain, and they don't know what to do with it. That's what's going on. They don't know what to do. They're feeling something that's so uncomfortable, so horrible within them, and they don't know what to do with it. That's what's going on right now.
Sheila, you are so right that we don't each have an individual body. There is only one body.
Amen.
Body of Christ.
Yes.
Is within all of us.
Yes.
And when we attempt to heal others and ourselves, we're not healing an individual body. We're healing humanity.
Yes.
All
Collective.
of the chaos that you mentioned.
Yeah. A collective body. Yeah.
We are
That's
so
why I designed a process. In fact, I'm going to California to do it. I just did it at our church, healing the pain of the pandemic. I'm going around doing that, helping people tap into what's going on inside of them and teaching them how to move it and bring forward that which they really want to feel, and helping them to align and connect with how to support each other in tapping into that and letting it go. And then we can all step forward and heal everything and everybody. But we've got to all be ready to clear away that pain and go ahead and own it. We've got to own it. We've got to own up to it. Just like you owned up to what you were feeling, and I owned up to what I was feeling. People have got to own up. We can't push it down, because if we push it down, it gets stronger because it's down there cooking.
We need to own up in our consciousness,
Mhm.
our connectiveness one to another. There's not a Black community and a white community. There's just community.
Yes.
It's not a unity family and a science of mind family. There's just spiritual family.
Family.
There's
Exactly.
not a Buddhist and an Islamic and a Roman Catholic.
Yeah.
It's just spirituality.
But we've got to make each other aware of that. We've got to make each other aware of that. They think it's because, well, you're this color and I'm this color, and you're this religion, and that person's that religion, and I'm that. And so all they're thinking of, it's the differences that's coming to mind, instead of there's only one of us. We are all God.
But we're all fit together in a mosaic as a beautiful puzzle.
Yes.
Just like there are men and there are women, and it's supposed to be like that. We all fit together to co-create. We're not supposed to separate the men from the women because they're differences. Vive la difference.
Yeah. Speak it, sister. Speak it. Speak it. Amen. Yes, exactly. But you know, you can feel what's going on right now. Think about it. You can feel it. You can feel what's going on, because there's only one of us. That's why I was on that sofa for 5 days. And I had to begin the healing work and the release of what I was taking in order that I could step forward and begin to support others in doing the same thing. And that's how I came up with the Healing the Pain of the Pandemic.
That's beautiful.
Yeah.
Because there's a school of thought that says that what the three of us are doing right now is less useful than being out in the street holding a sign. Less useful than attack and sarcasm and one-upmanship and that kind of, you know. And it's the law of consciousness that has to be gotten across.
Yes.
That if Jesus, for instance, I've long believed this, and I have nothing to base it on. It's just something I believe. If he had never called disciples, if he had never worked a miracle, if he had never manifested anything, if he had not overcome death, still by the depth and height of his consciousness, he would have changed everything forever. And that there are others out there we've never heard of and never will, possessed of that consciousness, who are doing that. And that's what we aspire to ourselves, not for any fame or recognition, but to just take us that last mile into oneness, into the oneness that we were born. And I know that sounds kind of lofty, but there it is. And
no, that's not lofty.
you know, that's
Didn't Jesus say, these things I do, you can do? And even, I mean,
Yeah.
I believe him.
he did, and he wouldn't engage. You know, that's the
Exactly.
thing. It's like when they arrested him, he could have fought back. There are a lot of things he could have done along the way to hide out and assert power and raise an army at his back. And he did none of these things. And
He was
said, "Just
showing
take it."
us.
He was showing us. Yeah.
Yeah. Yes.
Yeah. So, you know, but yes, and then again, it begins with, as you say, acknowledging the pain that we're in and speaking of the pain that we're in and having a safe place to do that. I see Lisa on, you're kidding me, Lisa, we're out of time? No,
This is your 10-minute warning,
This
and
is our 10-minute warning.
you do have some question-ish things on Facebook.
okay, you want to start with those?
Yes, although I believe the first one from Jonathan, y'all kind of already answered. That was with the workbook, the 12-step class, because the first one was, how do we create a multicultural, multidiscipline, intergenerational? So I believe that question you did answer with the workbook. And if you didn't, then he can get me later in the questions. Now, there was a question. Does this mindset require development of a stronger spiritual foundation so that one can stand firm in who they are and whose they are?
Mhm.
You kind of touched on that, but
I know who wrote that.
And then-
without seeing it.
and then
Before you get to the next one, before you get to the next one, this book, Practicing the 12 Steps of Inclusivity by Dr. Sharif Abdullah, is on Amazon.
there's a link in the chat on Facebook.
And we'll have it in our bookstore at Creative Life.
Okay, and you
As soon
can
as we can.
also go to his website too, Commonplace Institute. I just wanted to get that in before you go to the next question.
Okay, and then the last question is, do secular leaders share in the responsibility to nurture this, and who instructs them in this regard?
Spirit.
Yeah. That's true.
Well, I have a take on that. Yeah, secular leaders do, absolutely. Secular leaders tend to be members of spiritual communities. And those spiritual communities, I feel, have a responsibility, be they Christian, Jewish, Muslim, Hindu, Buddhist, unaffiliated, multi-denominational. They all have a responsibility to teach unconditional love,
Yes.
because it's at the heart of their teaching. And if they've drifted away from that, they need to drift back to it.
I agree. I agree.
Was that the last of the questions, Lisa?
I guess so. She went away.
So
Yes.
I want to mention my book and relate it to what we're talking about. This is the Next Testament, our story of regeneration. It's my spiritual journey, but also in relationship to what we're talking about. I mentioned Sharif Abdullah in the New York Times, best-selling book, Creating a World That Works for All, and edited it by what he talked about as the Velvet Revolution. Stephen Hawking, in his documentary, Expedition New Earth, explained that human beings very soon will have to leave planet Earth because of carelessness toward the Earth and repopulate somewhere else in the universe. That's some heavy stuff they're saying. This physicist is warning that if humans do not become multi-planetary species and settle on in other worlds. Our species, as earthlings, human beings, could die out at the end of this century. We are dealing with having to take this seriously. This stuff is not, as you said, we'd be better off out carrying a sign. We need to do something about this. We recognize each other in love as we witness our civilization in breakdown. We have been well equipped with tools within to create all that is necessary for all beings to have a planet in the universe in which to live and love each other. This is our opportunity to put these loving methods into place all over the universe. And this is also available on Amazon. I'm complete.
You're complete.
And our elder brother told us, he was so clear, these things I do, you can do, and even greater. I don't think he was joking.
No.
I don't think he was pulling our legs.
Yeah, and we have greater challenges now than he could anticipate. As you mentioned, climate change. He lived in a small area. He traveled on foot. You know, we have the whole globe now with all of its concerns. These are the greater things that we're called to. I'm grateful for this time that we've gotten to spend together, and I'm grateful for the insights and for the consciousness, and I'm grateful for having new friends. Thank you. Thank you for coming into my life in this way. And
Thank you for the opportunity, Jesse.
Yes,
together we're going to get there.
we can
Because
do it.
Love is all there is in the final analysis. Love and its denial is like the fog and the sunlight, you know? So yeah, thank you
And
all
we
so
can
much.
turn this ship around before it hits the iceberg.
Yes, absolutely. Dr. Catherine, I'm gonna ask you, I'm gonna impose, it's not an imposition because you're Dr. Catherine, but I'm gonna ask you, would you close us with a prayer treatment? Would you close us with a knowing?
Let's just take our time together here. Let the seat that's supporting you support you as we all join together, hearts and minds, giving thanks for the time we've had together, but also giving thanks to Spirit, who's brought all the opportunities to us. And for this, we are so eternally grateful. We say, thank you, God. Thank you, God. Thank you, God. Amen.
Amen.
And
And thank you again, Dr. Catherine, Reverend Sheila. It's been wonderful, and we will you will hear more from us shortly about that class. Give us a little while to pull it together, read the book, you know, and we'll roll it out on Zoom here as soon as possible.
Are you ready for me to cut the broadcast?
Yeah, I feel we're complete.